Angelia Joy Hilbert, known to everyone as Angie, was born in 1966 in Texas. Her father, Reverend John Spalding, was a pastor in Owensboro, Kentucky, and her mother, Joyce, worked alongside him as foster parents. Over the years, the couple opened their home to nearly 25 foster children. At just 19, Angie married John T. Hilbert, and a year later, she gave birth to their daughter, Alyssa May. By 22, she was working at a Gulf service station at the corner of Bardstown Road and Hurstbourne Lane in Louisville, Kentucky. In early May 1989, Angie filed for divorce. Just a month later, she mysteriously vanished. On the night of June 3, 1989, Angie finished her late shift around midnight and was last seen in the Dry Ridge Road area, close to her parents' home. Her family was preparing to move back to Owensboro, and Angie planned to join them soon after. That same night, she was reportedly in contact with her estranged husband, John, and was even seen with him. After that, she was never seen again. It was as if she had disappeared without a trace. Shockingly, no one reported her missing until nearly 2 weeks later. When she was last seen, she was wearing blue jeans, an orange shirt, and a man's class ring that no one in her family recognized. 3 weeks later, on June 26, 1989, Angie's gray 1982 Pontiac J2000 was found abandoned in the parking lot of the Toy Tiger Lounge on Bardstown Road. Investigators believe whoever was responsible for her disappearance likely left it there on purpose. Her parents were granted temporary custody of Alyssa soon after, and later, full custody. Tragically, Angie was 3 months pregnant at the time she went missing. If she was murdered, authorities say it would have been considered a double homicide. Some investigators believe her pregnancy, and the mysterious ring she was wearing, may have played a role in her disappearance. John, her estranged husband, was known to be extremely jealous and furious that she planned to move away with their child. In 1992, police followed up on an anonymous tip that led them to search a plant nursery in Jefferson County. Using dogs and heavy equipment, they searched 2 areas about 300 yards apart. The dogs picked up faint scents of possible human remains, but nothing concrete was found. Experts later suggested that the area's clay soil may have trapped the odor, making it almost impossible to locate a body. A decade later, in 1999, John Hilbert's violent tendencies escalated. While at the trailer home of his on and off girlfriend, Karen Poole, also known as Karen Miller, John shot and killed 2 men, 28-year-old Danny Wayne Elmore and 30-year-old Joe Eddie Stump, who were cousins. That night, John, Karen, and Karen's sister Tammy went to a bar called Jughead's in Louisville. Although John and Karen had broken up, they were trying to stay friends. Still, Karen admitted that people had warned her to keep her distance, especially after John once fired a gun into her car trunk during an argument. At the bar, Karen and Tammy met Danny and Joe. Around 11 p.m., the group went back to the trailer to hang out. John later told police the men attacked him, claiming he fired in self-defense. But both Karen and Tammy disputed that story. They said John walked in and shot Joe immediately. As he fled, Karen followed him outside and found Danny dead on the porch steps from a close-range gunshot. John was arrested soon after when he crashed his truck into a utility pole a few miles away. In 2001, he was convicted of both murders and sentenced to death. But in 2005, his conviction was overturned, and he remained in jail awaiting a retrial. 3 years later, the Kentucky Supreme Court ruled that prosecutors could once again seek the death penalty. In 2011, John Hilbert was found guilty for a second time, but this time, he avoided execution. He was sentenced to 27 years for one murder and life in prison with the possibility of parole after 25 years for the other. Sadly, Angie Hilbert has never been found. If you knew her in the spring of 1989, especially if you were aware of her pregnancy, please contact the Louisville Metro Police Department tip line at 502-574-5673. Angelia Joy Hilbert disappeared on June 3, 1989. As of October 2025, she remains missing, and her case is still unsolved. Her character is sweet, quiet, and kind-hearted. But heartbreakingly, Crystal would never see her 16th birthday on the evening of October 8, 1998, around 4 or 5 p.m. Her mother dropped her off near a friend's house on Strunk Ridge Road in Whitley City. That was the last confirmed time anyone saw her alive. Some reports claim she briefly returned home before vanishing, but that's never been confirmed. At first, authorities listed Crystal as a runaway. Some believed she had left with friends or a boyfriend, while others feared something far more sinister. Sadly, those fears proved true more than a decade later. On April 25, 2009, a turkey hunter stumbled upon skeletal remains in the woods off Peel Dogwood Road, near Kentucky 700, right on the edge of the Daniel Boone National Forest. It was an isolated area, surrounded by thick woods, with no homes for miles. The hunter initially thought he'd found animal bones, until he realized one was a human skull. 3 months later, in July 2009, forensic testing confirmed the remains belonged to Crystal Marlowe. The autopsy revealed she had suffered blunt force trauma and a gunshot wound. Tragically, Crystal's mother, Florence Abigail Marlowe, had passed away in a car accident shortly before the discovery. In her personal journals, she had written that she suspected longtime friends, not a boyfriend, were involved in Crystal's disappearance. Despite years of searching, few answers have emerged. Investigators and loved ones are still desperate to find out who killed Crystal. If you know anything, no matter how small, please contact the McCreary County Sheriff's Office at 606-376-2322 or Kentucky State Police Post 11 in London at 606-878-6622. Glenn Keith Osborne, known simply as Glenn, was born on May 6, 1938, to Carl and Helen Osborne. He married Mary Ruth Johnson in 1955, but was tragically widowed just 11 years later. Glenn never remarried. He spent most of his life in Michigan, working for the Ford Motor Company. When he retired, he moved to Viper, Kentucky, looking for peace and quiet in the Appalachian foothills. Even in his late 60s, Glenn was sharp, active, and independent, despite managing diabetes that required daily medication and insulin, which he never left home without. On the morning of March 2, 2006, Glenn spoke to his daughter, Gina, around 11 a.m. He mentioned going to the bank to withdraw money and then heading to a land auction near Johns Creek. He carried a $20,000 cashier's check and possibly some cash. Witnesses later saw him that same day at the Weddington Plaza in Coal Run, Kentucky, but after that, he vanished. When family members couldn't reach him for days, they reported him missing on March 5. The next day, his Ford F-150 truck was found abandoned in the Weddington Plaza parking lot. Investigators believe someone else drove it there. A friend came forward, claiming he had picked Glenn up at the plaza to meet someone, but said he didn't know who. His story changed several times, and he eventually stopped cooperating with police. Despite extensive searches, interviews, and public appeals, no trace of Glenn has ever been found. His disappearance remains one of Kentucky's lingering mysteries. If you were at Weddington Plaza between March 2nd and 6th, 2006, or had any connection to the Johns Creek land auction, please contact Kentucky State Police Post 9 at 606-433-7711. Even the smallest detail, like seeing who gave Glenn a ride that day or hearing talk about his $20,000 check, could help. Glenn's mother lived to be 98 years old, but she passed away without ever knowing what happened to her son. Glenn Keith Osborne disappeared on March 2, 2006. As of October 2025, he remains missing, and his case is still unsolved.